What is up, wrestling fans? And all rise for an all-new edition of the Parts Unknown podcast. I am, of course, the tribal chief of Ringside Intel, Jason Burgos. And with me, as always, is the wise man of our show, the one and only Jose Maldonado. But for a second edition, we have a guest. He's the man delivers outstanding video content for the site, as well as his own very successful WrestleStar YouTube channel, and that is the digital enforcer himself, Andrew Ravens. Senor Ravens, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all for having me. Let's get into it.
So we're gonna go a lot of topics. We're gonna, of course, the first thing we're gonna do is talk about Backlash predictions. We're also gonna talk about the recent WWE cuts and dig into that. And a lot of people got laid off recently. Also gonna talk a little bit about the much talked about news with Liv Morgan. She's gonna be in this movie Battle Lieutenant. It's gonna miss just a few weeks. We're gonna dig into the idea of any other WWE stars that might, take their talents to Hollywood and stuff like that. Also talk about Becky Lynch being called Becky Hogan recently and her thoughts on that, as well as rumblings about who is the new leader of the Wyatt Sicks. I thought we had a leader. I guess we don't. We're going to get a new leader. Let's go. First, Backlash predictions. Let's jump right into it. We got Gunther versus Pat McAfee. Now, the real question I have for you guys is, beyond who's going to win, I think we know who's going to win. What's the purpose of this? Is this because Gunther is just such a big name? He's been, pushed so heavily in the last couple of years. They've got to put him in something interesting and different than a regular feud just to keep him interesting. Where's this leading to? Is it going to head to Goldberg like some people predict? Though that, that the thought is maybe that's as SummerSlam still ways away. First, Andrew, let's start with you. What do you think? Why are they doing Gunther versus an announcer?
I think two reasons. Number one, to get someone for Gunther just to smash. I mean, just smash someone, all right? A vicious beating. And it sets up Goldberg. But I think it does lead to a SummerSlam match. I understand the whole Saudi Arabia thing, bringing in Goldberg, him getting a nice payday. But SummerSlam being a 2-night event this year, that's an attraction. They need to sell tickets. I think that's where we're going. I just hope it's not a situation where Goldberg comes in and helps Pat go over Gunther. I think that would be a mistake. But it's something to keep an eye on. Just throwing that out there.
Jose, would you agree with that? Because I think Andrew's onto something. I can see something where Goldberg gets involved, furthers that feud and everything. Would that be a bad idea to have Gunther lose here? Or is Gunther such a made man that losses, if done for the right maybe storyline reasons, maybe doesn't hurt him?
I don't think it hurts him, yet I still think it would be a terrible idea. I don't think that McAfee getting a dub over Gunther does anybody any favors. But I do think Andrew's spot on about how this will lead to the Goldberg feud and Goldberg involvement, but I think it'll be after the match. I think it'll be the beatdown that a lot of people are pretty much hoping for, to be frank. Maybe a little competitive, get Pat some offense and this and that. But once the bell rings and Gunther's laying that post-match beatdown, we might hear Goldberg's theme and, the ball will be rolling on that. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, though, because, to you guys' point, SummerSlam is still a ways away. So unless they're going to push that match up to some other kind of event, what will they do to fill the void? You know what I mean? Somebody like Goldberg is very much of the less is more kind of caliber, and that includes his promos. You know what I mean? Like, he can only say who's next so many times leading up to SummerSlam. So it's like what they can do with Gunther in the meantime, it will be interesting to see. But the result I don't think is in doubt, but it'll be interesting to see what this sets up and what it would lead to going forward in the immediate future for Gunther. And just real quick, what you talked on Jay as well. Yeah, this seems like Gunther is such a made man and such a force and so protected, to their credit, that this seems to be the best way to go for him instead of just some regular feud, some kind of novelty feud. May do him a little bit better. So,
well, and another thing, while Jason's having technical difficulties, is everyone complaining, well, why did Gunther not get a rematch? Okay, think about the outrage on this. The outrage, first of all, was you had Jey Uso beat Gunther. Can you imagine the outrage if Jey Uso beat Gunther a second straight time? Like, oh my, right? So why, I don't understand why people are like, oh, well, Gunther needs a rematch. No, don't beat him twice. Let's just move on with it. Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, the internet, that it's a hell of a thing. We'll have to edit that out, of course. All right, so moving on from there, hopefully it doesn't happen again. Let's move on to Dom Mysterio versus Penta. Um, you know, since Triple H has taken over, they've done a lot of having these long title reigns, but it seems like they're having these more of these moments where you're having shorter title reigns, kind of like Attitude Era, surprise title changes. Is there any reason to think Penta wins here and Dom's title reign is just a few weeks long, or Dom's going to keep it a little bit longer than that? Jose, you could take this one. Who you got taking this one?
I got Dom retaining, and yeah, I kind of it sucks to me a little bit that it's Penta that's gonna have to take the loss here. Although I mean the same thing, it won't really damage him too much, but I don't think Dom loses it here just because of how interesting of a champion Dom is, and so much storyline that they can go. They still haven't even scratched the surface on Finn having to kind of not take orders from Dom, but kind of concede that he's the guy right now. So they're just scratching the surface with that. I think the belt needs to be involved in that to make it that much more interesting. So whether it's shenanigans involved, the DQ, or something or other, I think Dom walks out of Backlash with the belt still intact, at least for the time being.
Now we saw Rey Fenix lose at WrestleMania. Penta has had some losses on Raw that were unfair and outside interference, stuff like that. Andrew, do you think does it hurt? Because we've seen so many people come in that are new and they push them really hard and they dominate, stuff like that. Does it hurt Penta if he loses here to Dom Mysterio, or it just matters more in the story? He's so over, he's so popular. We shouldn't fear the idea and get into this mode where new people have to just go on long winning streaks to be over, and it's just not it's more it's wins and losses in this fictional world.
No, I don't think they necessarily need to go on long winning streaks, but I'd warn this. I think WWE has to be very careful with this finish, because I think the ideology of having Dominic just go out there and pin Penta clean, I think that would be a mistake. You have to have some type of outside interference. It gets more heat on Dom. It protects Penta a little bit more, whether that's Raquel Rodriguez or someone else from Judgment Day. He needs help. Like, Dominic shouldn't be going out there and just beating folks, right? Like their laundry out there or something. Like, he needs a little help. And I have faith that they're going to take care of these two guys in this match.
Yeah, I agree. I just think Dom is you can't end this title run so early. Penta's, you guys nailed it. Penta's got to stay strong on some level. Something interesting will happen, and they're doing such an interesting job with laying the groundwork of what seems to be another schism in the Judgment and a possible another evolution and changes that's come. The whole thing with Finn and his unhappiness. I think Finn's doing a fantastic job with that. Also, please, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, please like, share, subscribe. Give us your thoughts on the Gunther versus Pat McAfee matchup and Dom Mysterio versus Penta. But moving on from there, another secondary title match, that is the United States Championship. This is easily could be the show stealer of the entire card. No, people, it's not going to be John Cena versus Randy Orton. You got Jacob Fatu, the champion, versus Drew McIntyre, which I'm starting to wonder, based on other rumors, if this might be Drew's last match for a while, because he's supposed to be moving to Hollywood soon. LA Knight and Damian Priest. Andrew, is there any way Jacob Fatu, make a case why Jacob Fatu would actually lose the title he just got at WrestleMania, and also I believe take his first singles loss? He hasn't taken a first singles loss yet in WWE.
Can't do that. I think Jacob Fatu is going to walk out. I think most people would agree with that. Here's the question I would pose to you two gentlemen today, and I think it's something that fans need to be thinking about. Who takes the pinfall loss? Like, to your point, Drew, could he be going? I think if he takes the L, that's a gigantic indication that he's going to be taking the summer off. But if he doesn't, then, like, I don't know if you want to necessarily pin LA Knight. Damian Priest, do you want to beat him, 2 straight times? That's the interesting part about this match. And honestly, this could be the sleeper of the night. It really, really could.
Jose, what are your thoughts? What's your prediction for the match, and who do you think should get the pinfall?
Yeah, it seems to make the most sense for it to be Drew for the reasons that you guys stated, and that honestly might be the reason he's inserted in here at all. I mean, aside from the fact, with the history with Damian and everything like that, it just seems kind of out of the blue to involve him in the United States title picture. They're kind of combining the two feuds here, but of the 4, Drew makes the most sense to take the L here. And yeah, I mean, the belt got to stay on Jacob, even more so than Dominic. The fans want it. Jacob is so hot and so on the rise that it makes zero sense for him to take any kind of an L here. So yeah, Jacob retains with Drew taking that loss. If it's not Drew, I can see maybe a world where Damian takes the loss, although that would probably hurt him a lot more than anybody else in the match. He seems to have the most to lose in terms of momentum, but I don't think they're going to be reinventing the wheel here. I think Drew takes the pinfall loss, heads off to Hollywood, makes a couple of good pictures if it works out well for him, and Jacob carries the belt on for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we've watched wrestling for a long time. This is what this feels like. This, like, Drew McIntyre really doesn't make sense at all in this feud and going for the U.S. title. It just feels like he's going to be leaving soon. Let's get the most of him doing the honors for, this little hiatus. And that's why they're doing so much with Jacob. He has to get the win, and getting the pin on Drew is such a big moment. Like, well, I got a pin on Drew McIntyre. Maybe that sets up a even bigger feud for him down the line. And I agree with that. It's got to be Drew. I mean, LA Knight getting another loss would be bad, although I'm very much of the mind I think we need to move to LA Knight, going back to heel. I think he's I think, Andrew, you've covered this too, like he's kind of peaked a little bit with his run a little bit. And Damien has done such a good job in my mind. That's why I put him on our power rankings this week. And despite losing to Drew, he's done a good job of keeping himself strong. He went toe-to-toe in a really nice segment, LA Knight on the mic last week, against stayed strong and a tough guy to go on the mic against. So, yeah, I don't think he can take the loss here. It's got to be Jacob who's going to win. Drew takes the L. Moving on from there, the Women's Intercontinental Championship match, which I think has gotten some really good interest in the last couple weeks, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But we've got Lyra Valkyria in her first title defense on like a major show, defending the IC title against Becky Lynch, her countrywoman. Jose, is there any reason why? Because it feels like Becky's going to win. Make the case why Becky should win.
Why Becky should win? Man, aside from the name, you know what I mean? Like, I see no case for it to be Becky here. It does. This feud has done so much to elevate Lyra. I think we talked about it a little bit in the past, how,
Absolutely.
Lyra, despite how much we love her, despite how talented she is, it feels like she was missing a little something since she got to the main roster. This feud has been the spark. She's looked tremendous the last couple of weeks. She's kept up on the mic with Becky. The physicality has been there. I think the fans are starting to buy into her. So it would be such a disservice for Becky to just undercut that and take the belt away. Now, the upside of that, I guess, if I'm going to make the case for Becky winning the title in this case, it would be to prolong the feud. If that's the case, then that might be a little bit of an interest, as long as it ends with Lyra kind of getting the big win and getting the title back. Wouldn't be opposed to that. The feud has been cooking, and the short turnaround from WrestleMania to now does lend for the feud to continue, maybe even get Bayley involved, trying to avenge the attack at WrestleMania. So if that's going to be the case, then I'd be for Becky winning, as long as it doesn't lead to just Lyra moving on to something else. She needs to get that win back and the title back.
Yeah, and like we said, Jose, like Lyra is arguably one of the top 5 female wrestlers on the roster. She's fantastic. She's been shown at NXT, but she did lack some. She had the goody vibe, which is killer in the modern era for a babyface. You kind of need to be a little conky, a little stank on occasion, and she's been that, and it's helped her a lot with this feud. Andrew, 1, what's your pick? And 2, has the build to this feud? We got the heel Becky, a little bit more confident, kind of interesting version of Lyra. Has it made you more interested in this matchup, or whatever? This is a match I don't really care too much about.
Masterclass. This is a masterclass of a situation. To answer your 2 questions, number 1, Becky Lynch goes over. No doubt about that. Number 2, yes, it's made Lyra much, much more interesting. Triple H, he always likes to talk about how, well, we tell stories here. Well, I'm tuned into this story. All right, serve me up. I want a few chapters. And to your point, I think that's what we're going to get. This is the way I see this going, because it doesn't make much sense for Becky just to go in there, beat her, move on from it. What does this do for Lyra? Well, she's already seen her stock be elevated. And as we've seen in past booking decisions, Bayley got the top spot, has elevated others. Tiffany Stratton, Nia Jax, etc., right? Charlotte Flair has helped elevate Tiffany Stratton. And I think Becky is here to help elevate Lyra. I think she has done that so far, but I think she can take her to the next level. Look for SummerSlam for Lyra to get the title back. Maybe Money in the Bank if they want to rush it, but SummerSlam would make sense to me.
And especially going on to what we'll talk about the Becky Hogan stuff. If Becky wins, it's always tough for someone so popular to get heat, but you've already got this momentum of what happened in WrestleMania. Then the Becky Hogan talk, and then she then beats Lyra in like her second match. It just adds the heat. It puts Lyra in a great position. It's like, oh yes, please beat Becky. I'm not liking this, and that's what you want. You want to put the face in a position where the crowd is rooting for you to beat somebody. I'm totally going. I think it's going to be Becky, and then they're going to have a longer extended feud after this. Moving on to the main event. John Cena versus Randy Orton for the Undisputed WWE Championship. I think we can all agree Cena versus Rhodes was not a very entertaining match. The end was meh. Hopefully Travis Scott doesn't show up for this. That said, there's something to be said about two guys who have a ton of chemistry together, and I think the fact that they've wrestled so many times, they're kind of at the same speed in their careers. I think this actually might lead to a better match than the one with Cody. First, Andrew, I'm going to start with you. One, who's your pick for this? I think we're all going to pick the same person. But two, what are your hopes for this match? Like, what are your hopes in terms of on physicality on the match level and just storyline wise? Where do you want to see John Cena's retirement journey go after this?
Okay, so for prediction wise, I have John Cena going over to take a page out of Brian Alvarez's book. I'm calling this starting expectations at -5 stars. Okay, we can only go up from here.
I love it.
What I want out of this match, I want this match to be over with right now. I want this match to be done with today. And I want because they have to send the crowd home happy somehow, right? It's in St. Louis. You can't beat a hometown guy in his hometown and not the fans go, ah. So I would hope, let's all take a moment. Let's hope together. Let's cross arms and hope that they set up John Cena's next feud right after this match. I want the bell to ring. I want John Cena to avoid the RKO. I want him to hit an attitude adjustment. I want his next opponent to come out and let's get off the air. That's what I hope we get out of this match.
Jose, what are your thoughts on this? Like, one, of course, what's your pick? And then two, do you feel the same as Andrew? You just want this match to be over, or are you kind of digging WWE playing the hit, so to speak, with Orton and John Cena one last time?
All right, first off, really quick, you mentioned Travis Scott. Show of hands, how many people got Fiend on their playlist on a loop?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever wants to hear that song ever again after WrestleMania. But in terms of this match, I mean, interest, yeah. I mean, come on, this is what the 25th, 26th, 30th, 50th, 100th time that we see Orton and Cena going at it. So if there's any interest in this at all, is that they have been pushing it as one last time. And I think it was smart of them to realize, listen, this is the one, this is the checkbox, the checklist match that people want to see the least in terms of Cena's retirement tour. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way as soon as possible. Include St. Louis as Randy Orton's hometown to make it at least a little bite from the home crowd. But yeah, this has to be it, like a one and done. This doesn't need to be a prolonged feud. This gives us Cena versus Orton one last time. Cena goes over, move right on to the next one as soon as possible. If Andrew gets his wish and we get the opponent immediately after the bell rings, then by all means, please make it happen. But I don't think anybody's expecting anything more than just them playing the hits one last time, seeing two legends of their generation clash one more time, and then that'd be a wrap.
I'm gonna go in a different direction. I wouldn't say I'm excited about the match, but I do think it'll be better than we're probably all expecting. I do like the fact that they're sort of each other's speed. They're both very good storytellers in a match where they know the little things and they don't have to be superb athletes to tell good moments. And they have such good chemistry. I wouldn't be surprised if it's better than expected. And yeah, I like the fact that it's the flip side. We've got the reverse version, that one's the face and one's the heel, and I think that is refreshing and it's interesting. That said, yeah, I'm gonna go with Cena. I totally, it just doesn't make sense for him to lose otherwise. But I like the point that they can't end the night on a down note, especially in Orton's hometown. But then one last follow-up question in terms of Backlash predictions. Jose, you could take this first. who do you want to see Cena against next? Who should it be? Should it be a CM Punk? Should it be, maybe a Damian Priest, and then they set up John Cena, Travis Scott versus Damian Bad Bunny? Like, where do they need to go? Who, we've already got playing the hits already. We can't keep playing the hits. Should they go in a direction where it's somebody new?
I like what the scenario you threw out with Damian Priest and getting Bad Bunny involved. Maybe a tag match down the line, for the next event might not be the worst idea for Cena, especially how the singles match with Cody went. I would have liked to have seen Punk be the guy, but Punk's got his hands full right now with Seth Rollins and everybody. Plus, that seems probably more like a SummerSlam match, maybe even Survivor Series, kind of cap the anniversary of Punk's return. In terms of who could be next, man, honestly, I'm kind of short on where they go from here. I mean, Cody returning, and maybe, trying to avenge the WrestleMania loss can kind of be a filler feud in the meantime, but that doesn't scream filler feud just because of how big of a name Cody is. It'll be interesting to see who it is, but honestly, I'm not particularly sure if I could, get no name really comes to mind that makes a whole lot of sense right now. So I'm kind of heading into Backlash in the position that they want me to be, just anticipating who it might be, and hopefully I'll be surprised.
Andrew, do you have any preference on who it should be next?
I mean, you can go down the list and name a bunch of people. I think there's a gigantic issue that WWE is facing that no one's really addressing, which is they have a lot of events from PLEs to Saturday Night Main Events coming up over the next 3 months, and they don't have a lot of contenders lined up. Like, you could make the argument, okay, maybe Money in the Bank, probably SummerSlam is where we get the tag team match, the rumored tag team match with Cody Rhodes, Bad Bunny, Travis Scott, etc., right? That would make more sense. I could see it being like this. You could do the tag team match night 1 of SummerSlam. Night 2, you run it back with Cody and Cena. You can save the Punk match for later on. You don't need that to be for the title. Damian Priest makes sense. But Cena is advertised for a lot of these shows, and they don't have a lot of contenders lined up. They got to get that problem fixed. I mean, even if it's one-offs, and obviously I think it will be, you need to start getting people lined up because they don't have it right now.
Yeah, I do like that idea of having I'm sorry, just really quick. The one-offs really does sound like a good idea, and take the opportunity to use Cena clout to elevate somebody as a potential challenger. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I can totally see also just to some of these events, like I said, Nice Main Event perfectly. I can see him not having a match and he's just appearing, and that's part of the storyline, setting up a person that he's going to face, and that's the element of it. They've been doing that a lot where they just have these moments and stuff like that at certain events. I think that they did that at Saturday Night's Main Event before what's the Survivor Series with Kevin Owens and Shawn Michaels and Cody Rhodes, like something like that, a little kind of segment. But all right, so let's our coverage on Backlash predictions. Let's move on to some topics we want to talk about. The first one, this is the biggest story of the week in the industry because it's going to have a lot of ramifications and stuff like that in terms of wrestler movement. That is WWE cutting over like a dozen of their roster. There were rumblings about there were staff cuttings in the backstage and office stuff, but then it also came out that they're cutting members of the roster. Some of the names that were released or let their contracts were allowed to expire: Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, Dakota Kai. A lot of people surprised about Braun Strowman, Riley Osborne, Gigi Dolan, Shayna Baszler, Cora Jade. I was a little bit surprised. Jakara Jackson. Why do they break up the Meta Girls? That kills me. Eddie Thorpe and Gallus, as well as Shotzi. I mean, Shotzi. Okay, I'm not too broken up about that one. So going on from there, let's go with this first question. Who do you think got a raw deal here? Who should have maybe got some more time? They maybe had some bad luck, but as a potential performer in WWE star, who maybe should have been kept in terms of these releases? Andrew, I'll start with you.
So there's only one name on this list that surprised me, shocked me, I think was a mistake, because all of the other names, there was something with them, whether it's they were there forever, the Gallus brothers, the Shayna Baszlers of the world. They've been there, they've done that, they've been there, right? Let's move on. There's been other talents where they either have backstage issues, Riley Osborne, Cora Jade, or were not progressing. Braun Strowman, he's another guy that's been there forever. Dakota Kai is the only name on the list that surprised me. I understand she's 37 or she turns 37 today, but she still has a lot to offer. She's going to find work immediately. I think she is the only name on this list that I think AEW should even consider bringing in. Do not bring in half of this roster. Some of this roster that was cut can go to TNA. And I think if you're Dakota Kai, please sign a 1-year deal. in case you don't like the booking or WWE wants to bring you back. A 1 year, don't sign a 5-year deal. Do not do that. I think that would be a gigantic mistake.
Jose, which roster cuts were surprised about the most?
Yeah, I think Dakota, and not so much. I mean, yeah, because she's uber talented and had a lot of crowd investment, but also she had ties to Damage Control. You know what I mean? Like the Bailey and Io of it all. There was still juice to be there was still juice there. So it's kind of surprising to see that they cut. Especially with the mid card title just introduced. Dakota could have been a player in that. I mean, yes, she had a couple of chances already, against Lyra, but with Io as the champion and Dakota's ties to that, I think they could have done a lot more with that as well. I'm honestly a little surprised by Braun. To your point, Andrew, he's been there forever, but he's just such a plug and play attraction that I think they could have, used him, particularly on SmackDown. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, we're talking about a shortage of contenders for Cena. He could have been a filler feud. You know what I mean? Have a month where Cena could, Strowman could say that he never really got to, touch base with Cena and wanted to try his luck, and it would be no sweat off his back to take the L in that scenario. And Strowman got enough clout to where he can kind of pull that off convincingly. But the rest of the list, yeah, I think that a lot of the internet was making a bigger stink about it than it needed to be. A lot of those names really did make a lot of sense. Poor Cora Jade was probably packing her bags the moment that Julia debuted as Roxanne Perez's partner on Raw. It's just like, the writing was on the wall, and a lot of those other cases. But yeah, I mean, I think universally, Dakota Kai seems to be the only real head scratcher of the names.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of people were surprised by Strowman just because they felt he did a lot for Bronson Reed's run, Jacob Fatu helping him get bigger and stuff like that. And also, as my wife said, like, he was such a company guy. Like, he seemed to do everything they wanted him to do, even though he's a fairly big name. But reports were that part of his release was his contract. He had a main event level contract, and being used as mid card. I get it, and all this stuff is done just to fix numbers with making shareholder quarterlies look good. For me, I'm going to go a different direction. The two I was a little surprised about was, one, Jakara Jackson, just because I'm a big fan of the Meta Girls, and I think she's almost like the Dynamite Kid to Lash Legends British Bulldog. Like, she's just a really good worker, got an interesting character, has a solid charisma. I think it's always worth it to have people that can work in the ring, athletic, and they have a bit of charisma. I think something could always be made with talent like that. And also Eddie Thorpe. This guy just got a pin over Trick Williams. Like, what was the point of that thing? Like, he got a big win over Trick, and it was a huge part of Trick's crashing out storyline, which has been entertaining. But that was a little surprising. That was kind of just a waste. It makes it further seem like these cuts are just kind of willy-nilly. And it's like, oh, we got to make some cuts, guys. Do what you got to do. That was surprising, but moving on from there, who do you, Andrew, you kind of cover this with Dakota and AEW, but beyond Dakota and AEW, who among these talents that were released do you feel could go to a TNA, maybe New Japan or AEW, and really maybe in that environment could really take another level? Like, we've seen that with a lot of people, with Cody and all these people that Drew McIntyre and that left and really took their careers to another level. Is there anyone among these releases beyond Dakota that could really take their game to another level in another company?
Yeah, I'm very glad that you asked that, because I forgot to mention this. So the only name on that list that I think can actually come back to WWE and make a difference, and I think this cut is actually going to benefit her in the long run, is Cora Jade, because before she got injured, she was making progress. She had really good character work, and she was doing pretty good progressing in the ring. And then she came back from that injury, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was she lost a step. She wasn't the same. Now she has the ability at 24, 25 years old to go out, work indies, work TNA, and go out there and really hone her craft. She has such a high ceiling that I think that she can absolutely come back, and she can be a pretty good player for this company on the main roster level.
Jose, who do you think could go somewhere else? Maybe not even just reinvent their career so they go back to WWE, but how about like just somebody that can go to one specific roster and really make a difference to help that company a lot? It can make that company even more interesting to fans.
I think a sleeper name in this mix is Kaden Carter. I think Kaden Carter in the TNA could maybe do like what Naomi did, where she kind of, established herself as somebody that offers a little bit more than what people were expecting. Of the two, between her and Katana Chance, I mean, Katana Chance had the explosive like move set and a lot of the athleticism, But I think Kaden Carter had the charisma of the group, and there might be something untapped there that she hadn't been able to show as a singles. So I think in the right environment of like CNA or even Ring of Honor, you know what I mean? If AEW wants to put her on the Ring of Honor roster, have her go against somebody like an Athena, that might unlock something in Kaden Carter that maybe people haven't seen before and maybe might make WWE take notice. I think that'd be an interesting one to watch.
And Kaden Carter's got a lot of things Katana Chance doesn't have. So she's got a lot of options. The one for me, I really respect what TNA's been doing now, and they have their own kind of homegrown talent and talent from the indies, but they're making these smart decisions with veterans. But yes, a lot of people look at the Hardy Boys and go, "Oh my goodness," but that's been a nice addition for them, and Dolph Ziggler's a nice addition. I honestly think Braun Strowman in TNA would be very helpful for them. They've made so much headway, especially with work in WWE and NXT. They're getting better numbers. They're getting crowd sizes. We're getting a guy like Braun Strowman, who was beating Goldberg at WrestleMania. He's been a world champion, worked with the Wyatt family. If he could just take some time away to get his legs in better shape, do what he has to do to just get his legs better, and maybe reinvent his character on some level, man, he could be a very interesting monster, a great maybe foil for Joe Hendry before he eventually, goes to WWE, because that's coming matches with Moose. Like having him and this giant on TNA just adds something. It makes them feel big. And I'm sure the people that don't watch enough maybe feel like a WWE. And I think he could make a really big impact, pun intended, for TNA. Moving on from there, let's go to Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan! My girl Liv Morgan's getting into Hollywood, man. She went from Chucky to being in Bad Lieutenant, an A24 film. A lot of hype about this. A lot of people are talking about, oh, this can make her an it girl in Hollywood. Please, I don't want that. I don't want Liv to leave. But there's a big role. There's also the stories about Drew McIntyre. Is supposedly, we kind of mentioned, he's maybe has a role, some major role that he's gonna probably take time off of. So he's might be doing that. So with that said, now we're in this different world where Vince McMahon has removed, he's not there. The shackles have been removed, and people can go have fun elsewhere and be in Bloodsport and go and maybe do other things, AAA and all this. And also they can go do stuff in Hollywood. And if the schedule works right, no problem, go do that. With that said, Jose, who do you think on the current WWE roster that maybe WWE should be a little worried about, that if Hollywood gets their claws into them, maybe they can start getting some roles, and maybe they can take some long hiatuses, maybe never come back from La La Land?
Well, Michael Cole, obviously. I mean, that's the natural choice here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oscar worthy.
Coal miners just rise up. But honestly, I think there's potential with Damian Priest. I think Damian Priest has like a very unique look. He has a very distinctive voice. He has the chops. You listen to his promos and everything like that, the way he delivers them. Plus, he has shown the connection with Bad Bunny, and due to that connection, he's kind of a known name in some casual circles. So I wouldn't be surprised if Priest takes a shot. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be like marquee Oscar kind of stuff, but maybe in a couple of action movies, maybe like a particular series that's like catered to him, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Priest is able to make some waves. The dude, I think, has enough there where there might be a spark where Hollywood might come looking.
Andrew, what are your thoughts? Who is on the WWE rosters? It just seems bound for a few trips and maybe long extended stays in La La Land.
So to answer your question, first, I think it's LA Knight. He comes across as a guy that has just kind of that charisma, that movie star kind of aura. Obviously, Drew McIntyre, he's rumored for that. But I also would point to this. I think it was a report by PW Insider that noted that the company in which is repping all of these talents, they're working very closely with WWE to make sure that they're not going on hiatus for 3, 6, 9 months while they film all these projects. I think they decided that CM Punk, he had filmed either a TV show or a movie while on WWE TV, right? Like when he was written off during the Drew McIntyre feud. So I would think with that, if that information is true, and I would believe that it is, I don't know if these talents are going to miss a lot of time. And I would also wonder, and I hope this comes out and gets clarified, is Liv Morgan still stateside, or did she go overseas to film this movie? That could have impacted her hiatus. But I think these stars going into Hollywood, I actually think it's more of a positive than a negative for them, for the fans, for the company. It's more exposure, and go for it if you ask me.
I'm surprised you guys didn't mention. Say it right now. I think in 3 years he might be gone, and this is what he's doing. Roman Reigns. Like, this guy's going to Hollywood. Like, there was the reports that he's only got 1 year left in his contract. Maybe he stays another year or two. I mean, his cousin's The Rock. He's already dipped his toe a little bit into the acting. I've had to hear from my wife for years how good looking he is. I'm so over it. And it's happening. Like, he's got the looks. He's just in his early 40s. Like, I think The Rock will open up all the doors for him. I think, unfortunately, as great as he is, we're gonna lose wrestler prime of Roman Reigns, because I think he's definitely going to go to Hollywood, and he's going to have to need some Mr. Nannies and some Urban Commando and all those kinds of things for him to come back. Suburban Commando. So moving on from there, next topic. WWE fans showing some hate for Becky Lynch over the last week or so since WrestleMania. Been dubbing the man Becky Hogan because of Hogan's ability to use his stroke backstage to navigate himself into favorable positions and storylines. Now, the reason people are saying this is because, let's not forget, Becky Lynch was a person who was one of the held downtowns for a very long time until she had to break a nose to finally break through. But it's because she came back at, what was that, a SummerSlam a few years ago, out of nowhere, beats Bianca Belair for the title. Then she comes back out of nowhere, WrestleMania, wins the tag team titles. Now, that said, rumors were she was behind this idea of coming back at WrestleMania, winning the titles with Lyra, and then losing the titles the next night. And we're seeing it set up a feud, and the feud has been very beneficial for Lyra. Jose, is this Becky Hogan stuff fair? Is she really becoming Hulk Hogan? Is it just fans being weird and rejecting people just randomly? Or is there a case to be made? Maybe she's getting a lot of power, she's getting a lot of stroke, and she's abusing it a little bit.
I think it's a little bit unfair just because of what the results have shown. You know what I mean? I mean, I may be a little biased because I'm a Becky fan, but even back in the day with the steampunk Becky, she was my girl. But I think the results are there to where she's used this clout to elevate people. People talk about Bianca, and people were outraged with her return and instantly winning the title and everything like that. But you see what that led to. That led to Bianca getting the huge win at WrestleMania and just running away with the title and establishing herself as a top star. Now, Becky had a little bit of a hand in that. Same thing with Lyra here. Yes, Becky kind of maybe throwing a little bit of her clout around to force this issue. There were some rumors about how maybe the storyline with Bayley was meant for Becky, and Becky wasn't really feeling that and kind of pitched this as an alternative. I'm not sure how much truth there is to that, but if this is the case, I think this is another case of Becky elevating somebody and using her clout to do so. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like she's had her long title reigns, she's had her time on top, but to your point, for the longest time she was overlooked, and she's making the most of her time with her momentum, and the fans are still there for it. You know what I mean? Like, people still, for the most part, she gets huge reactions. She still has that connection with the crowd. We'll see how this feud with Lyra goes, but I think it's a little bit unfair to label her Becky Hogan with all the baggage that comes with that.
Andrew, what are your thoughts? Are the Becky Hogan chants and talk online, is it warranted, or is the IWC as always overreacting and being a little ridiculous?
So I think Hulk Hogan and anyone being compared to him is the new version of someone being buried. They buried them. Really? Okay, I missed that funeral, but all right. No, and I don't think anyone, a very select few people, should be compared to Hulk Hogan, both professionally and personally. And no, I don't think it was Becky. But I will say this. I do believe reports that this was her idea. 2 reasons. Number one, she has a history of just showing up and beating folks, a la Bianca Belair, right? And number 2, there was multiple reports talking about how WWE and Becky Lynch, they were going back and forth, and they could not agree on creative. And I can absolutely see WWE being like, okay, this chick has not agreed to anything. What do you have? And she's like, oh, I'd like to do this. And like, great, fantastic. Come on down. And it turned into The Price is Right. And no Bob Barker, but still. And so we had Becky Lynch make her big surprise return, and now we're off to the races. But in the end, I still think she's going to elevate Lyra.
As always, wherever you're watching, listening, please like, share, subscribe. What are your thoughts? Is Becky Lynch acting like Becky Hogan? Moving on from there, last topic, and this is a recent rumor, and we've been hearing rumblings for a long time about the Wyatt Sicks eventually coming back. They were moved to SmackDown. They disappeared after the loss to Cross and Final Testament. Word was this guy, Uncle Howdy, got injured. And then as part of it, it's like, if they can't have the whole group together, they don't want to use them all, but he's supposed to be healthy. Bo Dallas is supposed to be coming back. And then Alexa Bliss, there was even the talk about her, Braun Strowman back in the day when Bray Wyatt was still around, and they were talking about this Wyatt Sicks thing. And now the rumors are that they're going to blend Alexa Bliss and the Wyatt Sicks together into a storyline, which also, again, has been rumored, but to be the leader of the Wyatt Sicks, which I would hope means they're going to be a heel turn. I think that's where we got to go with the Wyatt Sicks. Andrew, you covered this a bit for Ringside and with your video content about how the Wyatt Sicks has been used, good or bad. What are your thoughts? Because this would be a little bit groundbreaking. We got a hint of sort of a woman leading a mostly male team with Rhea Ripley, and Judgment Day. She was never the official leader, but she kind of felt like that at times. This would be official woman leading a mostly male team, which would be fun. What are your thoughts? Is Alexa being the leader of the Wyatt Sicks a good idea for the Wyatt Sicks? And how do you think, what's the best way to make the most out of this so that the Wyatt Sicks can really be impactful?
So I think this is absolutely a horrific idea. But if WWE can do the right thing, you have to keep in mind, you are taking a group of mid-card talent that has not sustained long-term singles success, and you're trying to bridge the gap between Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss. So I will say this. I do not like this idea. I hope they don't do this idea. But if they go, if they're insistent, okay, they're really insistent, we're all just going to go along with the ride here. I will give them 1 month. 1 month of goodwill. Wow. Because if it's a situation in which they are bringing in Alexa Bliss as the new leader and they are going to push her strongly and elevate her, then I'm all for it. But if this starts to turn into a mid-card act, which it's likely going to, then I'm out. But I'm going to give them 1 month. I'm going to give them a little bit of faith.
Jose, what are your thoughts? Is this a move and making Alexa Bliss the leader of the Wyatt Sicks something that appeals to you? Or do you agree with Andrew, this is probably a bad move that's setting them up for doom?
So I'm actually really torn on this one because I'm of the belief, like a lot of people, that the best iteration of Alexa was the goddess Alexa. I think that's when she was really hitting it, and she was just fantastic. And that type of a female character, I don't think has been done as well, with the exception of maybe Liv Morgan, since her. But on the other hand, Alexa was really interesting with Bray. I think there was a lot there that was done really well, and a lot of it was due to her. Alexa's one of the best promos they have in the company. She has this ability to just kind of deliver the content that she's given and connect with it. So if there's any hope for this to succeed, it rests on her shoulders. If it was somebody lesser, I'd be a lot more worried. But with it being Alexa and her already having kind of connections to the storyline, I think it's more than fair to what Andrew said about giving it a month to see where it goes, because that's going to be a very important month. They really need to knock this out of the park right from the start. Kind of like what they did when they originally introduced the Wyatt Sicks, and then you should kind of tape it off. They didn't really know where to go with, but I have enough faith in Alexa's ability and what she's shown in the past with this darker content, which she reportedly is a big fan of sticking with, that I'm willing to see where it goes, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think they made a very tough position for themselves, put themselves in a tough position and box themselves in by making them babyface, bad guy, supernatural team. Like, it's one thing to do that, but if you haven't set the groundwork that you make that transition, it's tough. And I think something like this was perfect to be attack people out of nowhere, and you can go after all the good guys, so you can develop heat and all the, you're gonna attack out of nowhere the Miz, and they limit themselves so much. So if they do this, I'm open to the idea. They have to make them heels. They have to. Alexa's far better at that than she is a good guy. And, it'll set up far more interesting. Like they go after a Damian Priest, and they go after a Cody Rhodes, and they go after Roman Reigns or whoever's there, these top, and they have to make them strong. Sort of like they did back in the day with Nexus. They're kind of doing, what's that, Dark State on NXT right now. Like just mad dogs that get sick, they're sick on people. And that's Alexa Bliss. You cross Alexa Bliss, she's going to sick the dogs on you, and you're in trouble. Like there has to be that fear element. Like you don't want to mess with them. And if the good guys need all the help they can get, deal with them. But this is it. If this doesn't work, it's over. Like we're done with, squeezing everything out of the Wyatt name. It is what it is. Both Dallas, the best effort. They gave it a shot. It just didn't happen. It's not meant to be. But that said, this episode is no longer meant to be. That was our last topic for this week's episode. As always, Jose, thank you so much. Andrew, thank you so much. I am Jason Burgos. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye.